Welcome back to the deep dive. Um, I'm going to be honest with you, right out of the gate today, we are tackling something that, well, it hits a little too close to home for me.
Oh, yeah, but I think for a lot of people.
Right. You know that feeling? Usually it's on a Sunday night, maybe around like 8 p.m.
The Sunday scaries.
Yeah, the Sunday scaries. You're looking at the ceiling, the weekend is just evaporating, and you have this sudden, just this sinking realization like, do I actually know what I'm doing with my life?
Right. Existential dread right before the work week starts.
Exactly. It's that gnawing pressure. We live in this world that aggressively tells us we need a plan. You need a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan,
A career trajectory that just goes straight up and to the right.
up and to the right. And if you don't have one, or, if you change your mind, or if you feel stuck, you're somehow failing. It feels like everyone else got the script, and you just lost your copy years ago.
It's a very specific kind of modern anxiety. We actually call it the paralysis of planning.
Paralysis of planning. I like that.
Yeah, and looking at the stack of research we have today, it stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of what a human life actually is. We tend to treat life like a high-stakes chess game.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you're sitting there terrified to move a pawn because you think one wrong move 20 years ago somehow ruins the entire endgame.
That's exactly how it feels. Like one mistake and checkmate, game over. I think a lot of us walk around with this low-level fear that we've already missed the boat.
Or you're on the wrong boat.
Right. On the wrong boat. Or we don't have a map to get to the right one.
Which is absurd if you really think about it.
Yeah.
But that's how we're conditioned. And that brings us to the core of the deep dive today. We are unpacking life design thinking.
Which is fascinating.
It is. This is the methodology that came out of Stanford, popularized by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. They wrote a book called Designing Your Life. And I want to be clear, this isn't just self-help fluff.
No, not at all.
It's based on a class at Stanford that was so insanely popular they had to lottery off the seats because literally every student wanted in.
That really validates the demand for this, doesn't it? You have these brilliant students at one of the best universities in the world, and they're just as lost as the rest of us.
Precisely. Because they're being taught how to be engineers or doctors, but no one taught them how to be humans constructing a life.
Right.
The core premise here is taking the exact same principles used in Silicon Valley to design, say, the iPhone or a new piece of software.
Design thinking principles.
Exactly, and applying them to the messy, chaotic, what they call a wicked problem of being a human.
A wicked problem. I love that term. We're definitely going to get into that. But the big hook for me, the thing that made me really want to do this deep dive, is the core shift they talk about.
From engineering to design.
Yes. They say we are trying to engineer our lives when we need to be designing them. What does that distinction actually mean in practice? Because to me, engineering and design sound like cousins.
They are cousins, definitely. But they have very different personalities. It's the difference between building a bridge and building a life.
Okay, walk me through that.
If you're an engineer building a bridge, you need to know the answer before you start. You need the load-bearing data, the wind shear coefficients, the exact blueprint.
You don't just pour concrete and say, let's see where this goes.
Right. Because failure in engineering is a disaster. If the bridge collapses, people die. You need total certainty before execution.
Which makes sense for a bridge.
But life isn't a bridge. Life is what designers call a wicked problem.
And a wicked problem is what, exactly?
It's a technical term for a problem where the criteria just keep changing. There is no single right answer, and you only know if you've found a solution after you've already implemented it.
So treating life like an engineering problem, trying to analyze your way to the perfect answer before you even take a step, is actually using the wrong tool for the job.
It's completely the wrong tool, and that's exactly why people get stuck. They're waiting for the data to prove the right path before they make a move.
They want the guarantee.
Exactly. But in design, you don't wait for data. You build your way forward to get the data. You don't think your way into the future, you act your way there.
Build your way forward. I feel like that's going to be our mantra for this deep dive. We are moving from analyzing to building.
We're going to cover a lot of ground today. We're going to look at the 5 designer mindsets you need to adopt to just stop freaking out.
Yes, please.
We're going to do a full assessment of where you are right now using the Life Dashboard.
We're going to talk about Odyssey Plans, why you actually need 3 completely different lives mapped out, not just one. That exercise alone totally blew my mind when I read through the prep materials.
It's a game changer. And we're going to explain why you should absolutely never, ever quit your job to open a bakery unless you have done a very specific type of prototype first.
The bakery example, I felt personally attacked by that one, but we'll get there.
You will.
Before we jump into the tools, though, I want to clarify something for you listening. When I first hear life design, I initially think of traditional career coaching. Like, is this just a fancy way of asking, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
God, no. In fact, if you take nothing else away from today, stop asking that question entirely.
Really? Throw it out.
Throw it out. Traditional career planning assumes a linear trajectory. It assumes you are a train on a track. Life design assumes you are an explorer in a jungle with a machete.
So there's no track.
There is no track. Traditional planning says analyze, decide, execute. And if you fail, it means you planned wrong.
Which is heavy. That's a lot of guilt.
It is. But life design says prototype, iterate, pivot. In this model, failure isn't a disaster. Failure is just data. It's the world telling you, hey, not that way, try this way.
That reframing helps the anxiety immediately. It really lowers the stakes. It means if I try something and it doesn't work, I'm not a failure. I'm just a designer collecting data.
That's the entire point. The fundamental belief of life design is there are many great lives I could live. Not one soulmate job or one true calling, many.
And that takes the pressure off finding the one right thing.
Exactly.
Okay, so if we're going to accept that there are many lives and no map, we obviously need a new way of thinking. You can't just install this software on an old operating system.
No, you can't.
The research highlights 5 core designer mindsets. These are the attitudes we basically need to put on before we pick up any tools. Let's walk through them. Number 1 is curiosity.
Curiosity is the engine. But we have to be careful here because usually when people feel lost, they are told to follow their passion.
Right. Follow your dreams, follow your passion. It's on every graduation card I've ever received. It's the standard cultural narrative.
And the Stanford team is very controversial on this. They say follow your passion is actually terrible advice.
Really? Terrible advice.
Yes. It's well-intentioned, but it's destructive. Because it assumes you already know what your passion is. The data shows that about 80% of people don't have a singular, burning, God-given passion that they've known since birth.
Wow.
80%. So when you tell that 80% to follow their passion, they just feel broken.
It creates this massive gap. I don't have a burning desire to save the whales or write a great American novel, so I must be boring. I've felt that. I've sat there thinking, what is my thing? And I come up blank, and then I just feel like a defect.
Exactly. Passion is rare as a starting point. Usually passion is the result of doing something for a long time and getting really good at it.
That makes so much more sense.
Right. But curiosity, everyone has curiosity. Curiosity is accessible. It's much quieter than passion. Passion shouts, but curiosity whispers. It just says, hey, that looks interesting.
It invites wonder instead of judgment.
Right. Asking, is this my one true destiny, is a heavy, judgmental question. It requires a yes or no answer that basically defines your entire life. But saying, I wonder what it's like to do that, that's an invitation.
It lowers the barrier to entry. You don't need to be in love with a subject. You just need to be interested enough to take one single step.
Which leads perfectly to mindset number 2, bias to action.
Bias to action. Let's dig into that.
This is a huge Silicon Valley influence. In the academic world, you think before you do. You write the thesis, you defend it, then maybe you publish. In the design world, you build to think.
We spend so much time in our heads running simulations like, if I apply for this job, then I'll have to move, and then my cat won't like the new apartment, and then I'll miss my friend.
And we spin out entire catastrophes before we've even opened a web browser. We live whole tragic lives in our heads.
We really do.
Life design says stop thinking, start doing. You cannot think your way into a new life. You have to build your way there. The problem with just thinking about your life is that you don't have enough data to think with. You're purely speculating.
But let me play devil's advocate for a second. Isn't bias to action just being impulsive? Like, I'm curious about skydiving, so I'll just jump out of a plane without a parachute.
Fair question. But there's a massive difference between reckless action and prototyping. Bias to action means taking the smallest possible step to get data.
Okay, the smallest step.
Yeah. It's not quit your job today, it's Google the industry for 20 minutes. Or email one person who works in that field. It's about momentum. The only wrong move is standing still.
So it's about micro movements, breaking the inertia.
Yes. Inertia is the absolute enemy. Action, even very small action, generates information.
Okay, so we're curious, we're moving. Mindset number 3 is reframing.
Reframing is essentially a superpower. It's the ability to take a problem that has you totally stuck and change the perspective so you can actually move again. We often get stuck on what the authors call dysfunctional beliefs.
Dysfunctional beliefs. What are those?
These are beliefs that we treat as hard facts, but they're actually just unhelpful stories we tell ourselves.
Give me a classic dysfunctional belief.
It's too late for me. That is a belief that just shuts down the entire system. It says game over.
Well, I think a lot of people feel that. Like, I've invested 15 years in accounting. I can't be a chef now. I've sunk too much cost.
It feels incredibly true, but it's a dead end. A reframe takes the exact same facts but changes the narrative. The reframe isn't suddenly saying I'm a chef now. The reframe is saying I have 15 years of rigorous discipline and financial literacy from accounting. How can that make me a uniquely successful restaurant owner?
Oh, I see that. You didn't lose the 15 years. You're just pointing them in a completely different direction. You're remixing your assets.
Precisely. Reframing turns a wall into a door. It changes I can into how can I?
I love that. Moving on to mindset number 4. Mindfulness of process.
This is the are we there yet mindset. We are so obsessed with the outcome. I'll be happy when I get the promotion. I'll be happy when I sell the business. I'll be happy when I get married.
Always deferring the happiness.
Always. Mindfulness of process is accepting that the journey is the life. It's letting go of the need for the perfect end goal right this second and focusing entirely on the step you are taking right now.
It's admitting that life is messy and nonlinear, and that's a feature, not a bug.
Right. You will never be done designing your life. It's a continuous process until you die, so you might as well get good at the process itself.
That makes sense.
If you're only focused on the outcome, you're missing 99% of your life, which is the process of actually getting there.
And finally, mindset number 5. This one really counters that classic American myth of the Lone Ranger. Radical collaboration.
Yeah, we really love the soul genius myth, the guy in the garage who single-handedly invents the future, but design is a team sport.
You can't do it alone. You literally cannot design a life in a vacuum because you don't know what you don't know. You need mentors, you need peers, you need people to bounce ideas off of.
It's weird how we feel like asking for help is somehow cheating. Like we're supposed to figure out our entire life path sitting in a dark room by ourselves.
And that's exactly why we stay in the dark room. Radical collaboration just means talk to people. The answers you are looking for are walking around in other people's heads right now.
You don't have to invent the future. You just have to discover it by interacting with the world.
Exactly.
So we have the mindsets, curiosity, action, reframing, process, and collaboration. We've got our hard hat on. Now we need to look at the blueprint. Or, as the sources say, the dashboard.
Right. You can't use a GPS if you don't know where you are to begin with. Before you decide where you're going, you need an honest assessment of where you are right now.
The dashboard is a pretty simple tool. You look at 4 gauges and rank them from 0 to 10. The gauges are health, work, play, and love. Let's break these down because the specific definitions really matter here. Start with health. Health is the foundation. If this gauge is at 0, absolutely nothing else works. And it's not just asking, do I have a 6-pack?
Right, it's broader than that.
It's physical health, mental health, and emotional health. Are you sleeping? Are you in chronic pain? Do you have anxiety that is unmanaged? You simply cannot build a skyscraper on a swamp. If your health is failing, that is your #1 design priority. Stop everything else.
Okay, then work?
Professional contribution. This includes your paid job, but it also includes volunteering or raising kids or caring for an aging parent. It's what you do that contributes to the world. It's where your daily labor goes.
Now, play. This is the one I think most adults get completely wrong. I look at my schedule and I think, I went to the gym, that's play. Or I played in my fantasy football league to win money, that's play.
And the Stanford professors would say, absolutely not.
Why? Why don't those count?
Because you're keeping score. In this methodology, play is defined strictly as an activity done purely for joy with 0 competitive outcome. It's doing something just because it's fun.
So the gym is out.
If you're playing tennis to beat your boss, that's work. If you're just hitting a ball against a wall because you like the sound it makes, that's play.
That is a hard distinction for us. We turn everything into a hustle nowadays. Like, I'm going to learn to paint so I can sell it on Etsy.
Which instantly kills the play. The minute you monetize it, it becomes work. And adults are severely play deprived. If your play gauge is a 0, you are highly likely heading for burnout.
Because there's no release.
Because play is where the brain regenerates. It's where neuroplasticity happens.
So play is actually productive in a roundabout way.
Highly productive, but only if you don't try to make it productive. The paradox of play.
Wow. And finally, love.
Connection. Partners, kids, friends, parents, and yes, pets definitely count. Who sees you? Who do you share affection with? Loneliness is viewed here as a design failure.
So you rank these 4 areas 0 to 10. And the key insight here is that you aren't actually trying to get 10s across the board.
No, that's the balance myth. Balance is a static state. It implies everything is equal all the time. That's impossible.
You can't have 10 in everything.
Right. You might have a season where work is a 9 and play's a 2 because you're launching a startup or having a baby, and that's okay.
It's about honesty.
It's about spotting design opportunities. If you look at your dashboard and see play as a 0, you don't necessarily need to quit your job. You might just need to join a local choir. Or go for a walk without your Fitbit telling you how many steps you took. You need to design a little joy back into the system. You're looking for the red light on the dashboard so you can address it before the engine actually smokes.
This leads us to a really important distinction the material makes between balance and coherence. I found this fascinating because we hear work-life balance constantly. But the Stanford team says balance is kind of a trap. The real goal is coherence. What does a coherent life look like?
Coherence is alignment. It's when who you are, what you believe, and what you do are all in sync. To find it, they suggest a pretty heavy writing exercise. You have to write out your work view and your life view.
Okay, define those for us. What's a work view?
Work view is answering why do you work? Is it for money? Is it for status? Is it to serve society? Is it self-expression? There's no wrong answer here. If you work purely for money to support your family, that is a noble work view, but you have to know your specific answer.
And life view.
Life view is asking, what is the meaning of life? Is the world friendly or hostile? What does good even mean? What is the relationship between the individual and society?
So if my work view is I work to make as much money as possible at all costs, and my life view is the most important thing is helping the poor, I have a problem.
You have massive incoherence, and your
Right.
body knows it. That's where that chronic, low-level stress comes from. You're splitting your soul 40 hours a week. You are acting out a script you fundamentally don't believe in.
Can you give us another example of this clash?
Sure. Imagine your life view is deeply environmental. You believe we are stewards of the earth, right? But your work view is purely pragmatic, and you work for a company that produces massive amounts of non-recyclable plastic waste.
That's going to hurt.
Even if the pay is incredible, even if the hours are perfectly balanced, you will feel a deep sense of wrongness. That tension is incoherence.
So coherence is when you can draw a straight line through your values and your actions.
Exactly. Tension is inevitable. You'll always have to compromise on something, but you want the arrows pointing in the same general direction. When you have coherence, you have resilience. You can handle a really tough job if it perfectly aligns with your deeper meaning.
Okay, so we've assessed our location on the dashboard. We're ready to move. But this is usually where we hit a wall. The sources call them gravity problems. I love this concept because it explains so much of our daily frustration.
It's the single most useful tool for getting unstuck, in my opinion. A gravity problem is defined as a problem that is not actionable. And in design thinking, if a problem isn't actionable, it's not a problem at all.
What is it then?
It's a circumstance. It's a fact of life.
Walk us through the cyclist analogy from the book.
Imagine you're riding a bike up a very steep hill. It's burning your legs. It's really hard. Now imagine you get off the bike, look at the ground, and start screaming at the earth. This isn't fair. Gravity is too heavy. I need to fix gravity.
You'd look totally insane.
You'd be delusional. You cannot fix gravity. You can't negotiate with it. You just have to accept it as a strict constraint. You can get a lighter bike, you can get stronger legs, or you can buy an electric bike. But you absolutely cannot change gravity.
But we do this in our careers constantly. We literally scream at the hill.
Yeah.
Give us a real-world gravity problem.
Poetry doesn't pay enough.
Oh, that's a good one.
That is a gravity
Wow.
problem. It is a socioeconomic fact. You can scream at the market all you want, but poetry is not going to suddenly become a high-yield asset class next Tuesday.
Right. Or saying I'm too old to be hired as a junior associate.
Exactly. Age discrimination exists. It's a
Yeah.
form of gravity. If you try to solve the fact that you are 50 years old, you will fail. You cannot solve your age. You cannot turn back the clock.
The trap is trying to fight the gravity itself.
The trap is engaging in a battle you literally cannot win. You stay stuck because you're waiting for the gravity to change. You're waiting for the world to decide that 50-year-olds are the new 20-year-olds. It's just not going to happen.
So how do we fix it?
Radical acceptance. You have to look the problem in the eye and say, this is a constraint. Once you truly accept it as a constraint, you can start to design around it.
And this brings us right back to reframing. The how might we reframe? Why is that specific phrasing? How might we so effective?
It alters your brain chemistry. If you
Hmm.
say, I can't do this because I'm 50, your brain just shuts down. It sees a solid wall. But how might we signals to the brain that there might be a solution and that we are collaborating to find it? It triggers the creative
So
centers.
let's take the I'm too old gravity problem.
Okay, so the dysfunctional thought is, I can't change careers because I'm 50 and I have a mortgage. I'm stuck.
Reframe that for me.
The reframe is, given that I am 50 and need a stable income, how might I leverage my extensive network and experience to transition into a new field without starting at the very bottom?
That feels completely different. Feels like a puzzle now, not a prison.
Exactly. Now you can brainstorm. Maybe you consult. Maybe you partner with a younger founder who really needs your gray hair and wisdom. You have options. But you only found those options because you stopped fighting the gravity of your age and started using it as a design constraint.
Okay, so we've accepted the gravity. We're ready to dream. Now we get to the really fun part, the Odyssey plans.
This is the core exercise of the Stanford course.
Hmm.
And frankly, it's scary for people. The assignment is to map out 3 completely different lives for the next 5 years.
And when you say different, you don't mean life A is an accountant at firm X and life B is an accountant at firm Y.
No, we're talking accountant, high school teacher, and scuba instructor. Radical differences.
Why 3? Why not just put all our energy into finding the best one?
Because the best one doesn't actually exist. And thinking there is only one makes you incredibly rigid. It makes you terrified of making a mistake. By forcing you to come up with 3, we embrace the multiverse theory of you.
The multiverse theory.
Yeah, there are many versions of you that could be happy. It breaks that one true path mythology that paralyzes us.
Let's walk through the 3 specific lives you have to map. Life 1 is the current path.
This is the easy one. If you just keep doing exactly what you're doing right now, where will you be in 5 years? If you're a lawyer, you're a senior partner. If you're unhappy, you're 5 years more unhappy. It's just the status quo extended forward.
It's the baseline. Then life 2 is the alternative.
The prompt here is crucial. What would you do if life 1 suddenly vanished? Let's say AI completely replaces your job tomorrow, or your specific industry collapses. You literally cannot do life 1. What do you do?
This is the rubber band effect. It forces you to look at your underlying skills, not just your job title.
It forces resilience. You realize, oh, I'm not just a lawyer. I'm a writer. I'm a negotiator. I'm a strategist. It reminds you that you have transferable assets. It cures that feeling of fragility. You realize you'd actually be okay.
And then life 3. This is my favorite, the wild card.
The prompt for this one is, what would you do if money were absolutely no object, and this is the key part, no one would laugh at you?
That no one would let constraint is so powerful. It removes all the social shame.
It removes the ego. If you knew you couldn't fail and everyone would applaud you, what would you do? Would you be a bartender in Belize? Would you start a heavy metal band? Would you just read books in a cabin in the woods?
Now, skeptics will hear this and say, well, this is just fantasy. I can't be a bartender in Belize. I have 3 kids and a mortgage. Why do we bother mapping out the fantasy?
We don't map it out to necessarily go and do it. We map it out to stretch the imagination. When you look at the wildcard plan, you very often see core desires that you've been suppressing.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. Someone writes down bartender in Belize for their wild card. They look at it and realize, wait, I don't actually want to mix drinks for a living. I just really miss talking to strangers without a corporate agenda. I miss casual human connection.
So the underlying desire isn't alcohol or moving to Belize at all. It's connection.
Right. So you don't need to move to Belize. You can bring that element into your life 1 right now. Maybe you host a weekly dinner party. Maybe you mentor college students. You can bring the essence of the wild card into your current reality today.
That stops the current path from feeling like a prison. You realize you have agency to change it.
Exactly. And for each of these 3 plans, you give it a 6-word title, you list the major questions you have about it, and you do a quick dashboard on resources like, do you realistically have the time, money, and energy for this path?
It makes the abstract very concrete. So let's say we've done our Odyssey plans. We have a few ideas that look really exciting. The engineering brain immediately says, great, I picked plan B. I'm going to quit my job tomorrow and just do it. And the design brain screams, stop.
Stop! Do not execute. Prototype.
This brings us to the big warning. Never quit your job to open a bakery without prototyping first. Tell us the bakery story, because I think we all need to hear it.
It's a classic because we've all done some version of it in our heads. You're totally burned out in corporate life. You imagine opening a little bakery. You imagine the smell of warm sourdough every morning. You imagine wearing a cute flour-dusted apron, chatting with the regulars, listening to acoustic jazz in the background. It feels so cozy.
It's a literal movie montage. It's deeply romantic.
It's a pure fantasy. So you cash out your 401k, you sign a commercial lease, you open the bakery, and within 2 weeks, reality hits you like a truck. The reality of a bakery isn't jazz and croissants. It's waking up at 3 a.m. every single day. It's breathing flour into your lungs. It's the industrial oven breaking on Thanksgiving morning. It's managing teenage employees who simply don't show up. It's razor-thin margins and massive stress.
And you quickly realize you hate it.
You realize you like baking on a Sunday afternoon, not managing a bakery business. But
Yeah.
now you're broke, and you're locked into a 5-year commercial lease. That is a colossal failure of design. You jumped without looking. You bought the dream without testing the reality.
So how do we prototype a life to avoid that?
Prototyping is about asking questions, not proving you're right. It's the Silicon Valley mantra of fail fast, fail cheap. The sources list 2 main ways to do this. First is prototype conversations.
Also called life design interviews.
Right. And this is not a job interview. You find someone who is currently running a bakery or whatever your interest is. You buy them a cup of coffee, and you ask them for their story. You say, how did you get here?
But you have to ask the right questions,
Okay.
right? If you ask, what do you love about owning a bakery? They'll just give you the Instagram answer.
Right, they'll give you the highlight reel. You have to dig for the dirt. The golden question here is, what does a typical bad day look like for you? Or walk me through an average Tuesday, hour by hour.
Walk me through an average Tuesday. That really grounds it in reality.
You absolutely need to know the grit behind the glamour. If the baker says, well, my bad day is standing on my feet for 14 hours straight dealing with a local health inspector, and you happen to have bad knees and passionately hate bureaucracy, congratulations. You just saved your entire life savings for the price of a latte. That is a highly successful prototype.
That's incredible. It's cheap data.
It's the cheapest insurance policy you can possibly buy. You are essentially borrowing their lived experience to test your own hypothesis.
The second type is prototype experiences. Basically, try before you buy.
Get your hands dirty. If you want to open a bar, don't buy a building. Ask a friend who owns a bar if you can just work a Friday night shift for free. Or just shatter them for a weekend.
Shadowing is huge.
It really is. You have to physically feel the reality. You might realize you love the chaotic, loud energy of the bar, or you might realize the noise drives you completely crazy after 2 hours. You can't think your way to that answer. You have to feel it in your body.
I like the idea of side projects, too. If you think you want to be a graphic designer, don't immediately go back to school and pay for a degree. Just try to get one small freelance gig.
Exactly. Do the actual work first. If you hate the endless client feedback loop, you won't like the career, no matter how much you enjoy playing around in Photoshop.
So we're prototyping, we're gathering all this data, we're ruling things out. But how do we know what to actually say yes to? We need a navigation system. This brings us to part 6. Navigation.
This is where we get a bit more somatic. We have to start listening to our bodies. The core tool here is the good time, bad time journal, or what they call an energy audit.
How does an energy audit work practically?
It's simple. For a week, just track what you do. But here's the catch. Don't track your productivity. We are obsessed with time management in our culture, but life design requires energy management. You need to track engagement and energy.
Let's define those for the listener.
Engagement is essentially flow. When did time disappear? When were you so locked into a task that you completely forgot to eat lunch? That's peak engagement. Energy, on the other hand, is about your internal battery. Did this activity charge you up or did it drain you?
And there's a nuance here that I found really interesting. You can be tired but energized at the same time.
Absolutely. Think about a really great workout. You're physically exhausted, you're sweating, your muscles might even be shaking, but you feel incredibly alive. That is an energy-positive activity. Conversely, you can sit in a painfully boring budget meeting for an hour. You haven't moved a single muscle, but you walk out feeling like an absolute zombie. That is energy negative.
It's draining your soul, not your calories.
Exactly. So you look for patterns in your journal. Maybe you realize, hey, every time I write, I enter flow. Every time I have to deal with spreadsheet logistics, my energy totally crashes.
And once you have that data, What do you do with it?
You redesign your week. Now, you can't get rid of all the drainers. We all have to do laundry and pay taxes. But you can structure your week to ensure you have enough energy creators to offset the drainers. You can bracket a really draining meeting with a 10-minute walk outside. Or you can actively delegate the drainers if you're in a position to do so.
It's about consciously managing your energy economy.
Yes. Design your daily life to maximize flow. That's fundamentally where happiness lives.
Okay, let's review. We have the mindsets, we've checked the dashboard, we've reframed our gravity problems, we've mapped out 3 Odyssey plans, we've prototyped the top ideas, we've audited our energy. Now we have to actually do something with all of this.
Implementation, where the rubber meets the road.
The sources suggest using a 90-day cycle. Why specifically 90 days?
It's the Goldilocks timeframe. A year is way too long. You'll just lose focus and procrastinate. A week is too short to see any real results. 90 days is a season. You can commit to doing almost anything for one season.
So what do we do in those 90 days?
Pick one thing, just one. Don't try to overhaul your entire life on a random Monday. Pick one prototype. Say, for the next 90 days, I'm going to prototype being a writer. I will write for 30 minutes a day, and I will interview 3 working authors. That's it.
Clarity comes from motion.
You act your way into a new way of thinking. You build the new identity by actually doing the thing.
Now, eventually, you do have to make a hard choice. You can't prototype forever. And the insights on decision-making here are fascinating. They talk about a concept called emotional irrevocability.
This is based on Dan Gilbert's psychological research at Harvard. We have this pervasive cultural belief that keeping our options open makes us happy. We constantly want reversible decisions. I'll buy the shirt, but I keep the receipt so I can return it. I'll date this person, but I'll keep my Tinder profile active just in case.
We always want an escape hatch.
Always. But the research clearly shows that keeping options open is actually a massive happiness killer. It keeps the brain stuck in comparison mode. You're constantly asking yourself, did I make the right choice? Is the other option out there better? It creates a constant hum of background anxiety.
What do we do instead?
You gather your data, you prototype thoroughly. But when you finally make a choice, you have to commit irrevocably. You have to burn the boats emotionally. You tell yourself, this is the path. There is no other path right now.
And what happens to the brain when you do that?
The brain switches from comparison mode to synthesis mode. It stops looking for flaws in your choice and starts actively looking for reasons why this was a great choice. It physically helps you love the choice you made.
The grass is greener where you water it.
Precisely. If you're constantly staring at the neighbor's lawn, you aren't watering yours. You cannot build a coherent life while constantly looking over your shoulder.
Finally, this whole process seems incredibly hard to do completely alone. We circled back earlier to radical collaboration. The book strongly suggests building a design team.
Yes. Don't go it alone. Get 2 to 5 people. Friends, colleagues, mentors. Meet once a month.
What actually happens in these meetings? Is it just a casual gripe session?
No, it's treated like a design studio. You bring your Odyssey plans to the table, you share your prototype data, you say, hey guys, I shadowed that lawyer, and honestly, it was painfully boring. The team is there to provide the outside perspective.
Because we constantly lie to ourselves.
We all have massive blind spots and biases. A good friend on your team can say, hey, you keep saying you want to be a writer, but every time you talk about writing, you look exhausted. But when you talk about your weekend teaching gig, you totally light up. Have you noticed that?
That outside feedback is absolute gold. There's a quote in the notes that hit me so hard. Don't spend more time planning a 2-week vacation than you do designing the next 5 years of your life.
It's highly convicting. We will spend 12 hours researching hotels and reading Yelp reviews for a quick trip to Cabo. But we just kind of drift blindly into our careers. We let the current take us wherever. A design team keeps you actively accountable to your own life.
So let's bring this all home for you listening. This is a massive toolkit.
It is, but it's a repeatable cycle. You start right where you are with the dashboard, you look for coherence, you boldly accept gravity so you can reframe it.
You visualize multiple futures through the Odyssey plans to break your own rigidity. You prototype everything to get cheap data before you leap.
You follow the energy using the journal, and you build it out in manageable 90-day cycles with a team actively watching your back.
It takes all the mystical mystery out of finding yourself. It's not a treasure hunt, it's a practical construction project.
Exactly. You are literally building yourself.
Before we sign off, is there one final thought from the deep dive you want to leave the listener with today?
Yes. There's a concept in the advanced material called identity design. We spend all our time agonizing and asking, what should I do? But the far better question, the real design question, is who am I becoming?
Who am I becoming? That shifts everything.
Life design isn't just about getting a slightly better job title. It's about continuously evolving into a version of yourself that is more alive, more coherent, and more engaged. So don't obsess over the final outcome. Focus entirely on the direction you're heading. Start small. Do one single energy audit today. Have one life design conversation this week.
Just start building.
Just start building. Remember, there is no one perfect right life waiting out there for you to magically find it. There is just the life you build.
That's the absolute perfect place to end. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into life design. Go out and prototype something this week. We'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.